Hey friends, kidding season is right around the corner for us. We've already had one mama give birth and we have 15 or so more that we're expecting here in the next couple of months. So I wanted to go through a few things that we keep on hand anytime we have a goat kidding in our very handy kidding kit. All right, so first let's go through a few things you should have on hand, really just for any kidding. The main thing is towels. The amount of goop that's coming out of your poor birthing mamas is pretty extreme. So when those babies come out, they are slippery and covered in fluids. So having just some old towels on hand really can be helpful just to get their faces dried off, kind of get that nose clear. That really helps them to get started breathing quickly. Another thing to have on hand to help with that is these bulb syringes, or sometimes they're called nasal aspirators. But they're the things that if you've ever had a human baby at a hospital, they will give you one of these. They are just designed for you to press the bottom, and then whenever you release it, it sucks whatever fluids are nearby into the bulb syringe. So super gross, and make sure you clean these out regularly, but really excellent to have on hand. If you have a baby who's having trouble coughing that fluid up, you can kind of give him a hand either in his nose or the back of his throat. Very helpful to have these. Another thing we like to have on hand just for all birthing is red raspberry leaves. Again, if you're a human who's had a baby before, you've probably heard of red raspberry leaf tea. Red raspberry leaves are a uterine tonic, and so what they do is they help your uterus to contract. So we offer these leaves just freely to our mamas who are in labor. It helps their labor progress well, it helps them contract and get rid of that placenta at the end. So anytime they want this in labor, and as much as they want when they're in labor, we always have this on hand for them. All right, iodine. Iodine is so useful for having to prevent something really scary called joint ill. Whenever your baby is born and their umbilical cord is either, typically it's severed, you might have to cut it if it doesn't tear on its own whenever the baby's born, but that is effectively an open wound. And so the bacteria that's all around will try to get in, and it can give your baby a really terrible infection called joint ill. It has some really devastating effects. So this is super handy to have on hand. Just whenever your baby's born, either sniff that umbilical cord or right as it tears, pour some of this on. You can also get it in a spray bottle to spray on. That will help keep that bacteria away. For your mama who has just given birth, we love to give molasses water. Molasses has some really great vitamins and minerals in it to help kind of give her an energy boost as well. And so we love to give, I don't even measure it, you guys. It's just a plunk of molasses in her water bowl. And so I also always have just an empty jar out here so that I can mix it up while I'm out here at the barn really quickly. Just fill that up with some water, throw a little molasses in it, give it a good shake, and then pour it in her water bucket, and she's a really happy mama. We do that right after she gives birth. All right, going back to umbilical cords, most of the time they're gonna tear on their own. We always like to have a nice pair of scissors laying around, just so that we can help if that cord either doesn't tear and it's still attached to the placenta, or if it tears but it's very long. Make sure you get it pretty short, because you don't want baby to step on their own cord and tear it later, or have other complications like that. We also like to have gloves on hand, because like I said, the fluids coming out of your poor mama are extreme and they're very slippery and gross. So gloves are invaluable just to keep yourself a little bit clean as you're doing all the things. The next thing that I always like to keep on hand is I have some vitamin B gel, selenium gel, and I also like to keep a tube of Jumpstart, which I need to go find, because these are just really awesome vitamin and mineral boosts. If you notice any signs that maybe either mama or baby is having a mineral deficiency, these are super great to have on hand. All right, that's it for the happy, easy stuff. Let's talk emergency preparedness now. Most of the time, birth is going to be easy. You're here just to supervise and watch. Mama knows what she's doing. Nature has designed this very well. But every once in a while, you do have problems, and so we want to be prepared for those. So first thing is, I always like to have some hand sanitizer on hand. Hand sanitizer is going to help keep things a little bit cleaner in the event you have to go in and help. If you do have to go in and help, I highly recommend having some of these really long, up to your elbow gloves. Again, birthing fluids, you guys have heard it before. It's gross. Try to keep yourself clean. If you have to go in, it's also super important that you have some sort of lube on hand, because you can do some pretty serious damage by not having your hand and your glove lubed up before you go in. So any type of lube is just fine. You can buy special OB livestock gel, or you can just buy some grocery store lube. It's all the same. All right, I also like to keep on hand, this is called CMPK solution, or CMPK drench. And this is, again, like a mineral boost. One of the worst things that can happen fairly commonly with especially dairy lines of heavy producing milk mamas is when their milk comes in right after they've given birth or within the first few days, sometimes it comes in with such force that the calcium that she needs to make all that milk, her body just zaps it from her own stores. And so that can cause some pretty serious complications like organ shutdown. And so if you see things like her just seeming overly tired, muscle weakness, things like that, have this on hand. She is in desperate need of calcium. It is an emergency. She needs that urgently. So we like to have this on hand just in case. We also keep a drench gun because this does not taste great. You're probably gonna have to squirt it down the back of mama's throat. Another great thing to have on hand, just in case of emergencies, is if you see mama's not acting right, babies are not acting right, have a thermometer where you can take a temperature really quickly. It's really easy to just stick your finger in baby's mouth, and if it's warm, he's probably doing okay. If it's cold, you have a big issue. But the thermometer is always going to be fail-proof as far as telling you what temperature your goat actually is and whether or not there's going to be a problem. All right, and then if we have babies who are having trouble, sometimes you have babies who just can't quite figure out where the teat is. And so we sometimes will, in an attempt to get that colostrum into them really quickly, we'll go ahead and milk mama a little bit, put it in a bottle, let them drink from the bottle really fast. Normally that gives them enough energy that next time they can find the teat on their own, and they're not going to be bottle babies forever. If you have a kid who is super lethargic, won't even get up, won't even try to the teat, and the bottle's not working, we always like to have a really thin tube attached to a syringe, and this is our feeding tube. Use great caution if you have to do this, because you do need to be able to feed this feeding tube down their esophagus into their rumen or their stomach, and you want to make sure that you are not going into their lungs. Getting milk into their lungs is basically a death sentence. So please use extreme caution if you do find that you have to use a feeding tube. That may just be the time when it's time to call the vet. One of the final things I have in my kidding kit is this really cool position chart. I got this one from Weedham and Reap. I'll have the link down below in the description. They have made an awesome position chart. It has tons of different possible positions of ways that kids might be coming out and what to do if they have abnormal presentations. So I love to keep this handy just because in the moment when mama's giving birth, even if you've already educated yourself well, you know what to do, sometimes that panic and anxiety sets in and you just need something concrete where you can read it, see what you need to do, and go from there. All right, guys, the very last thing that I would highly recommend you have in your kit is a vet's phone number. I know that not everybody has a vet for their farm animals, but in the event that you have a serious emergency where you just can't get a kid out, something like that, please have some sort of contact information ready for an emergency vet who can come out and assist you, or you can bring your goat to them, because it does become an emergency if you can't get that kid out. I hope you guys have an excellent kidding season. I cannot wait to share more of our babies with you and share how our births go. We know that births are not always perfect, and so while we're always hoping for the best, we also do want to be prepared for the worst. So good luck on your kidding season. We'll see you back here soon. We have a mama who's already lost her ligaments, so we're hoping in the next day or so we'll have more kids on the ground. Thanks for watching.